All my mistakes have got a hold on me again. Here we go, another day, another fork in the road. I never know who to trust. Will someone just tell me which way to go? And I need a sign, I need a miracle. I need to know that this is possible. I just failed so many times. Is there any way that I can make it right? God, if you're there, I need to hear you now. Come back to me, love, I forgive you. Oh, how I've missed you. Just know every time you run, I'll be right here waiting. This is no ordinary love. Listen up. This is no ordinary love. Listen up, this is unconditional.
All right, welcome back to the Death by Tyranny podcast. Well, more and more crazy shit is coming out today, obviously. I think it's what we have grown to expect from our leaders in government today. But I want to start today's podcast out off with a little message from Dan Holloway. I think a lot of people need to hear it. I think a lot of people have forgotten it. So we'll go ahead and play that for you guys.
Declares a national emergency, run for the hills. And I said, nah, I'm going to stand right where I'm at with my balls and my guns out. And then I said, you can stand behind me if you're afraid.
Did he
Right?
hit you back?
No, I don't think he will. Fuck the government, by the way. Like, you don't owe these people. They're your fucking employees. We are not subjects of a fucking kingdom. We are citizens of a constitutional republic. Fuck these motherfuckers. You don't owe them any of your money. You don't owe them any of your fucking liberty. God damn it, man.
That's nuts, man.
It's pretty nuts, but the only reason it happens is because people allow it to happen. That's it.
Yeah.
Like, every time you tell these motherfuckers no, and to be honest, this guy should file a civil complaint and sue the ATF and the Delaware State Police for.
All right, so just in case you forgot, the federal government should not hold any power over the United States citizen. We elect them. They are our employees, to put it in a very simple term. And so I think a lot of us forget that. And it's going to be really, really important to remember this here very, very soon. So yesterday, one of the things that I left out, other than trying to help people head over to my Instagram for when I do like only Instagram podcast-ish clip things. But one of the things I forgot to add in to the clip section was that Kamala Harris and Governor Newsom of California have been getting donations, large donations, and probably have been for some time. I think there was probably never a point, except maybe the first couple of months of Biden's quote-unquote presidency, where they weren't, consistently trying to earn money for their presidency and the run at the White House. So now it's like openly known. I don't think that it's much of a secret. So there you go. That's probably going to be your Democratic Party nominees. I would only imagine it's going to be Kamala Harris, seeing that she's the vice president, being the president, and Governor Newsom be the vice president. But you have to understand that both of these politicians came out of California, and in the time that they held their seats or their positions, they were doing some of the most horrible shit they could possibly be doing for that state and the people who lived in it. Now, California lucked out when Kamala Harris left California, but that fucked over the rest of us. And it makes complete sense that they would hold that close to the chest until yesterday. Because now today, Biden is coming out and saying that he has cancer, which isn't surprising seeing how old he is and the shape that he's in. But I have a good feeling that we're going to see, before the end of Biden's 4 years is over, for whatever reason, whether it be a surgery that Biden has to go into, or whether it's a sickness he gets, now it's just being more and more confirmed that this is going to happen. Before that 4-year term is up, Kamala is going to take the reins from Biden. Now, it's funny because the more that the Democrats gain power and have opportunity to show what they would and can do for this country, the more the conspiracy theories and people who were trying to tell you about this shit years ago seem more like fortune tellers than conspiracy theorists. So Kamala Harris taking the presidency from Biden, so she's already going to kind of have all that access and all that publicity there. And she's also going to have one thing that is probably going to help the Democratic Party more than anything else. She is going to be able to say that she is the first female black president. And there are too many stupid people in the United States that believe that that title actually means something good for this country. It does not. Just because you don't have a dick and you're not white doesn't mean that you can do better things for this country. It might mean a page in a book somewhere in history class, but it doesn't mean that inflation goes away. It doesn't mean that the relationship between the United States and Russia becomes better. When those two things happened, when the relationship between Russia and the United States was better, when inflation wasn't as high, when everybody, the majority of us, were doing better, Trump was in office. And I know people will vote for someone that their only qualification is that they're a woman and black, because they've already done it. They have already chose to elect someone that was black and a woman attached to someone that they probably hate just as much as Trump, because she was black and a woman, over a good president. So I have no doubt in my mind that there are enough people that will vote for Kamala Harris and Governor Newsom, if they decide to run, that it will not be just a landslide. You would think, if you go by what all Trump has done, let's take his presidency out of the equation. What Trump has done to help just normal people outside of his political career versus everything that Kamala Harris has done and everything that Governor Newsom has done, Trump still beats them by a long shot. Now, if you include Trump's political career, he destroys the whole entire Democratic Party. Everyone who has held a seat or an office in the Democratic Party, living and probably will for the next 10 years, he has accomplished more than them all combined. And yet, for whatever reason, that race will still be close. And why? Because she's a woman and she's black. And that just goes to show you this systemic racism theory and the white supremacy, international, or not international, but national terrorism they claim is such a big deal is not an actual thing. Because if it was, you wouldn't see a president nominee be able to have any advantage over Trump at all. But to be able to distinguish that their only advantage is her being black and a woman puts that kind of whole theory to rest. So we have to remember that going into 2024. We're already in 2022 starting to see kind of what the headlines are going to be. Biden, for as horrible of a president he has been and the chaotic things he's done for this country, on his way out, they are going to do everything in their power to make him look like a martyr. They're going to make him look like he sacrificed 50 years doing good things for this country. That is not the case. In the first 40 years of his political career, he was the exact thing that people who vote Democrat swear that they are fighting and want to abolish, which is a rich white guy who is racist. And that's what he did for the first 40 years of his political career. Now, in his next 10 years, the only thing he did was lie, take advantage, steal, and cheat from the American people. So do not buy that. He is not a martyr. He is not a good person. He is not a damn sure ain't a good politic or a good president. And we can't let them forget that and let that weave into the narrative going into 2024. And where on God's green earth Newsom thinks he has any shot of winning a presidency blows my mind. Californians don't even want Newsom. And I don't, that he's already been recalled once. And I believe those were kind of contested. So if he can't even lock down his own state, what really makes him believe that he can lock down the whole country? And I do believe he would absolutely need California and all the electoral college electoral votes to win a presidency, because most of the swing states are going to go Republican. And, of course, the red states are obviously going to go Republican. So that's going to be your 2024 narrative. You're going to see a lot more of the racism, white supremacy stuff. I thought that there was a potential for it to kind of die down and go away, because the more and more we see real problems in this country, it's getting harder to push that narrative. But I promise you, as soon as Kamala Harris runs for president, this will be the only thing the Democratic Party is worried about, because that is their only advantage. Not that Trump is racist and Kamala Harris isn't racist, but just the optical media narrative that is people who vote against Trump thinks he's racist, and people who vote Democrat believe Kamala Harris will be a god if she is the first black female president. So, and in a lot of ways, we've already proven this as well. We know how the Democratic Party feels about Obama. He's kind of like the way Trump is to Republicans, Obama is to Democrats, but even more, because at least there's Republicans that dislike Trump. I'm pretty sure every Democrat worships Obama. And there was a good possible chance that Obama wouldn't even have been the nominee for the Democratic Party if it weren't for a few key speeches in key places. It wasn't like he was a spectacular candidate. He just got lucky in a time where Republicans were kind of like the Democratic Party is now, where they don't really have anyone. So it was going to be a kind of handicap position for the Democratic Party in that race anyways, and then for anybody to come out and seem somewhat intelligent, speak in public good, and then have a few decent speeches and key components and what So like meetings or whatever. I can't. I know for one there's a meeting that the DNC holds that is pretty significant that he spoke at that kind of changed the tides of who was going to be the nominee for the Democrat Party. And I know that was one of the times that he kind of put a show on there to even make people notice him. But it's not like he had a phenomenal political career. So believe that the color of people's skin does matter. It's just not in the way that the Democrats want you to believe. They just want to see change for the significance of just change alone. They don't care if it's good. They just want it to change. And I've talked about this 100 times. Changing stuff that is good or has a potential to have good outcomes just to change is not a good thing. Sometimes you change shit and you have to change it back because you changed it the wrong way, even though the intention was good. Well, here they're changing stuff not even with good intention. They're changing just to change. They are changing just to say, look, we have this part in history that we will forever teach our children that this, we accomplished it. The Democrat Party accomplished having the first female and black president. Why is that so important to the Democratic Party? Well, because they're also the party of the Ku Klux Klan. They're also the party that pushed George Crow for a long time. They are the party of racism. For as boomer as that is to say, it is the truth. They have always been the ones that have created the divide. Even when Obama was in office, that's when you really started to see the race division spark up again and really start to begin to divide to the point where it is today. The Democratic Party did that, and they continue to do that. So that is why it's so important for them to have that in the history books, because then they can say, look, we are no longer the party of racism. We are no longer the party of George Crow or the Ku Klux Klan. We are the party of the first black female president. And that is going to, well, that's hopefully, in their position, that's hopefully going to make everything else go away. And that's bullshit. Just like we can't let Joe Biden be a martyr, we can't let the Democratic Party erase all of the evil and division they have caused this country just because they managed to hoodwink a bunch of people in believing that they are doing good and being on the right side of history because they can be the first at something. If the first female black president ends up being the last American president because she runs it into the ground or sparks a war with China or Russia to the point where nukes are involved, is that a good thing? Well, to the Democrats, absolutely. All they care is they got that last win. That's how much they care about the people that are actually putting in those votes, is that they were able to erase history and to rewrite it into where they were the good guys, no matter if that means the end of the United States or not. And in my opinion, I believe that if they could, they would end the United States and rebrand it into something else in their image. And that's kind of what we're seeing now. That's why America doesn't feel like America anymore. That's why patriotism isn't the word it used to be. It's why definitions of things are being changed. It's why pretty much anything and everything that happened during the COVID response by the federal government happened, is so they could rewrite shit in the image that they wanted to make what our forefathers intended America to be less significant and something else that gave them more power. If you think there isn't a reason for them to come out and discredit people like George Washington into giving them more power, why else would you do that? Of course, you could say anybody in history that has done good has also done wrong, whether they thought they were doing wrong in that moment or that it was just the time and the era that they lived in. Martin Luther King, a lot of people agree that he was a good guy. Well, he was kind of a fucking scumbag. He knocked up a bunch of women. He cheated on his wife. He wasn't the most, I'd say, outstanding gentleman when it came to his relationship or showing younger black men how to treat women. But you see how people look at Martin Luther King. So why go back and try to discredit people like George Washington and any of the founding fathers? Why do that? Well, because what the founding fathers did completely goes against what the Democratic Party needs to do to keep control of this country. We also see that they're starting to use the narrative of free and safe elections in and for their gain. So we know that most Republicans want to see some security and some insurance around free and fair elections. Well, now that we're getting closer and closer to the election, and the worse and worse it looks for the Democrats, they're going to try to use that and saying, we need to change this here. We need to change that there. And honestly, as much as it sounds like a good thing, we can't let them do that. Because if they do that while the Democrats are in control, they're going to do it only in their advantage. What the Obama administration did to Trump before the 2016 election was illegal. It was treasonous. Obama should have been hung for the things that he allowed that happened in the DNC going into 2016. Well, now they are trying to make it to where that will be legal. The electoral branch of the government, they're trying to allow them the power to where they can spy and manipulate what the opposite party does just running for president. Not even people that are already into politics, but anyone who would run for a Republican primary seat, they will then be allowed to go in and spy and kind of do anything and everything that happened during Obamagate. Well, if a Republican was in office and they were to write some piece of legislation that was exactly what Obamagate was down on paper and tried to get it passed, we would consider that unconstitutional and very treacherous and evil, and we should never let that happen. But since the Democratic Party has already done it, and they know that they have things they can gain from it, they're trying to make it where that can be the case every single time. And I've warned you, I thought Trump was going to be the last president of the United States, and there is still a chance that may happen, because there are still people in this country that believe that Biden isn't a official, legit president. So if that is the case, Trump would have been the last leader of the free world. And even if you think Biden did win the election free and fair, the world in America wasn't very free after that point. So in that sense, the definition I just laid out still stands. Trump was still the last leader of the free world. That's something that we should all be on board with stopping. We should be on board stopping it because we want to continue to live free as Americans, and we should want to stop it from the standpoint that our children will be able to grow up in a free country, in what we thought was America. And Kamala Harris is not the way. I've heard people say things like, at least we wouldn't seem as weak as we do now if Kamala Harris was in office. Well, I don't know if any of you guys have seen any footage of when Kamala Harris tried to go down to, I believe it was like Brazil or somewhere in South America, but she got booed off the face of the planet. She didn't show her face for quite some time after that. Anytime she comes out in public, she's almost humiliated and embarrassed immediately. That is how much she is not a person of the people. She doesn't know how to be a leader. And it is very clear from any political or public setting that she has ever been placed in. So I don't know that that is the case. I don't know that if Biden was to take a back seat and let Kamala Harris take the wheel, that it would be better for this country from a standpoint that we would at least seem not as weak. Well, in a lot of parts of the country, including Russia and China, women being leaders is weak. I'm sure people think that might be a controversial thing to say, but it's just true. If you want to make America as close and easy to invade as we've ever been, elect a female president. Now, a lot of people have also come out and said, well, if we had a female president, once a month, they would fucking start a war with somebody. And da-da-da-da. That's not true. The rest of the world would take 100% advantage and officially go on the offense when it comes to attacking America if we had a female president. Whether you like to hear that or not, that's the truth. You might not want to believe it, but that is the case. And if you take America in its current position and how weak our economy is, how divided our military is, and then you make them optically look weak on a world stage, that could possibly be any worse than what Biden has already done, put Kamala Harris in there. Because she's not 80 years old, and she's still dumber than Biden is. She isn't about to die, and people will still look at her, leaders from other countries, and think she is weaker than Biden. So I don't necessarily think that at least we would seem less softer of a target if Kamala Harris was in there. I don't think that's the case at all. And in a lot of ways, more than just in the aspect of being a Christian and not wanting people to die, and being an American and not wanting your president or who claims to be your president to die, I think Biden holding on until 2024 might be the best case scenario here. Because at some point, there's going to have to be publicly known things that happen for Kamala Harris to take over. And if enough Americans see how the DNC takes advantage and manipulates that process, it's going to be a lot easier for them to get on board with the fact that the DNC has tampered with elections. And then if you take both of those factors going into 2024, then maybe you might see a huge Republican wave take over this nation as far as on a president election scale. So the longer Biden can hold on and remain the president of the United States at this point, unless they're going to let Trump take it back over, that's probably the best case scenario. Now, another thing that we really have to worry about when it comes to putting the country back on the right track is what is going on with the RNC. What is the Republican Party going to do as far as who is going to run for president in 2024? The worst possible thing we could do is put Trump versus DeSantis. That cannot happen. No matter who you are, if you are a conservative or a Republican at this very point in time in American politics, Trump and DeSantis is the best we have. We cannot put them two against each other. You want a surefire way to win? Put them together. But absolutely do not put them against each other. And that's probably what's going to end up happening. You're going to see large, huge donations to DeSantis to run for president in 2024 and to try to separate himself from Trump. As long as DeSantis can resist the urge from the financial wealth he would gain from distancing himself from Trump, we might be okay. In my opinion, and I've said this before, our best bet is for Trump to run as president with DeSantis as vice president. And no matter if you are someone who thinks Trump should run and only Trump, and you don't like DeSantis, or if you only like DeSantis and you don't want Trump to run as president, this is why it's the best case scenario for Trump to win with DeSantis as his vice president. One, if you put those two Republican politics together, you are going to see a massive influx in people who are willing to vote Republican for president. Two, Trump has seen the way the country needs to run to get back out of economy like 2009. So he kind of knows a little bit about the settings when it comes to what to put where to get us on the best and right track for our economy. He also did great things for our military. One of the first peacetimes we've had in the last 20 years was under Trump. Trump and Trump alone knows the only mindset when it comes to being a president and making that happen that we've ever had. So we need Trump to go back in and put the settings back where they were around 2018, 2019 before COVID. 3, why this is a good thing. Because if you take DeSantis and throw him in the White House, never having ran for a president before, there is a potential for him to make the same mistakes that Trump made. Trump made a lot of mistakes, but he made more good than he did bad. So let Trump mentor DeSantis and show him the right way to do it and all the mistakes that he learned along the way. So then after the first 4 years of Trump and DeSantis, the next 8 years will be DeSantis and whoever he decides to pick for VP. That is the best case scenario for Americans to get out of the position and crisis that we are at in this point in time. It's just something to think about. I don't know if I believe the whole cancer theory. For all we know, somebody could be shoving their hand up Biden's ass and making him say that. Like I said, the day before he comes out and makes that speech, we find out that Kamala Harris has been taking donations. They haven't said for what, but we all know what it's for. It's for a run at the presidency in 2024, and we know that she's been getting these donations alongside Newsom, teaming up, working together. So we know exactly what that seat's going to look like. And let's be real here. Newsom is probably done in California. And once people figure out that they are done in a state, that's usually when they try to move on into something else. And we know that he is such a narcissistic asshole that he would think that he's done in California for himself and not because he's a shitty politician. And so he absolutely will make whatever moves he needs to make to get closer to being a president. So that's just something to think about, keep an eye on. Another reason for me, a couple weeks from now to get on here and say, look, I tried to tell you. A lot of Republicans, a lot of conservatives have been in that position in the last year, 2 years, that we've unfortunately got to say, I told you so. And so with that, I'm going to get off here. I'm going to try to keep these a little bit shorter the next couple of days because it's fucking hot in my mudroom. So stay safe, stay prepared. I love you guys. God bless. America first. Peace, y'all.